So, Donald Trump thought he could score easy political points by painting Baltimore as a crime-ridden failure. He wasn't counting on Governor Wes Moore coming prepared with the receipts to expose his fear-mongering for the lie that it is. Let's watch the full clip, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
We know the president watches the program, and he likely saw the guest listing because he's tweeting about you, or truthing, I guess. He says the governor, Wes Moore of Maryland, has asked in a nasty and provocative tone that I walk the streets of Maryland with him. And he's talking about crime-ridden Baltimore. It's quite lengthy, but he goes after your record on crime. He says it's a bad one. He says if you need help, he will send in the troops, which is being done in nearby D.C. I mean, when we saw a few weeks ago the deployment on the streets of Los Angeles, the governor of California tried to go to the courts, and he was unable to stop it. Is the reality here is you can't stop the president from sending troops to Baltimore if he wants to.
The year before I became the governor, in 2022, Baltimore was averaging almost a homicide a day. And I came in and I said, I refuse to be a governor who just offers thoughts and prayers to this situation. So we said, we're actually going to work in partnership with Mayor Scott, work in partnership with local elected officials, work in partnership with local law enforcement. We made the largest investments in local law enforcement in our state's history, over $50 million going to Baltimore City alone.
That came from federal money.
That came from both federal and state money. And also, Maryland became one of the only states that actually helps to fund the U.S. attorney out of balance sheet, taking many of those gun crimes and actually turning them into federal charges. And the results have been incredibly encouraging, where Maryland's had amongst the fastest drops in violent crime of anywhere in the United States in the past 2.5 years. The homicide rate in Maryland is down over 20% since I have been the governor. And the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. And so the reason that I've asked the president to come and join us is because he seems to enjoy living in this blissful ignorance, these tropes and these 1980 scare tactics. And, you know, just last week I was in Baltimore, and I was with a group called We Are Us, who's a violence intervention group. And they say, we're all we got. We're all we need. And that's exactly how people in this community feel. Because while the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime, but it's falling on deaf ears of the president of the United States.
You're talking about the positive trend line. The president's pointing to the FBI statistics, which shows Baltimore is the 5th most instances of violent crime on a per capita basis, 4th highest murder rate. To your point, the city of Memphis is also on that list, and the governor of Tennessee sent those National Guard troops here to this city, not to the streets of Memphis. But
and we know we have work to do. We know, like, if one person does not feel safe in their neighborhood, that's one too many. But we also know what tactics actually work and what tactics are just theatrics.
But the mayor in Baltimore did just say he wants federal help. He doesn't want National Guard troops per se, though. He says he wants agents from FBI, DEA, and ATF. Do you need more federal help in policing if your mayor thinks you do?
Oh, absolutely. And we need the president to stop cutting funding. Because if you look at the president's budget, it actually cuts funding towards violence intervention groups. It cuts funding towards the bureaus of the FBI and the ATF that are supporting local jurisdictions like Baltimore. That it doesn't do anything about things like ghost guns and these extended Glock clips that allow these Glocks to essentially turn into automatic weapons. Those are actually real tangible things that the president of the United States could do, and where you could put capital to actually make our community safer.
So you are a Democrat who is, President Trump says so as well, possibly a presidential candidate. He talked about you the other day.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time talking about you.
I've been on his mind a lot.
You're spending time talking about crime. Is this something that, as a Democrat, you think the Democratic Party needs to be more vocal and muscular about when running for office? Because I hear you doing that. It's a very big change from 2020. When the idea was defund the police.
Absolutely. And yeah, the president's spending all of his time talking about me. I'm spending my time talking about the people I serve. And yes, I believe that we have to be able to address the issue of crime. I came up in and I have existed in neighborhoods and communities that have been chronically neglected. And I remember one of the first things that happened in our first months in, I had to visit shock trauma inside of Baltimore because Baltimore had one of the largest mass shootings in its history. And I visited a young man, a teenager, who was just finished surgery and had one of his testicles shot off and was talking about how was he ever going to become a father. And I said at that point, I refuse to continue doing this and not putting the proper resources in place and not being able to put a real focus on making our community safer. And that's why it is so frustrating when we're hearing from the President of the United States something that is just purely performative, without actually focusing on these communities and these neighborhoods who believe that progress is possible and who are willing to put in the work. And we're just simply asking for Washington to be able to acknowledge it and support it.
He says, you're not presidential timber at all. I imagine you disagree with that assessment?
No, I've been very clear. I'm not running for president, but it's interesting but it's interesting. The president seems to be more concerned about my future than he is about the future of the American people. And that's where I'm asking him to keep his focus. Focus on the things that actually matter right now, which is the fact that his economic policies are driving up prices on everything from electronics to the clothes that we wear to the food that we eat. Talk about the fact that he has immigration policies that are knocking out tens of thousands of jobs in the state of Maryland. Talk about the fact that you are about to kick veterans and seniors off of health care. Don't worry about my future. Worry about theirs.
The sheer laziness of it is what gets me every time. I mean, honestly, it feels like Trump just found a dusty old binder from the 80s labeled scary political tropes and just picked one. There's no engagement with reality, no sense that he's even aware of what's actually happening on the ground in Baltimore. It's just this pre-packaged, cynical fiction designed to scare people. And that's the entire strategy, right? The goal is purely to create this dystopian image in people's minds to justify his own existence. He needs chaos, so if there isn't enough, he'll just invent it. The fact that real people are out there, actually working and making things better is completely irrelevant to him. It actually gets in the way of the story he wants to tell. It's just so embarrassing to watch. To see the President of the United States get proven so completely and factually wrong in real time. Forget a high-minded policy debate where you can argue interpretations. What you're seeing is blissful ignorance, as Moore called it, and it's being corrected with numbers that are not up for debate. Then you get to the whole send in the troops thing, and it just enters the realm of complete parody. I mean, is that really the only tool in the box? Something doesn't look right. Send in the military. It's such a performative authoritarian gesture. It's the political equivalent of a toddler throwing his toys because he can't figure out how the puzzle works. It's just a strongman power play, isn't it? A bit of political theater to make him look tough and decisive, but it's hollow. It's a sledgehammer offered to people who are asking for a scalpel. They're asking for targeted funding, for expert support, for things that actually, work. And he's offering a military occupation. It's just a confession that he has no real ideas. The whole thing is an admission of failure. It shows a complete disinterest in actual governance. All he has is brute force and empty spectacle. He'd rather shatter the progress being made just so he can have a good photo op. It's pathetic. And then, of course, when the facts have completely failed him and his tough guy act has been exposed as theatrics, what does he do? He resorts to playground insults. It's just so transparently defensive. It's the last resort of a man who knows he's lost the argument. You can just feel the insecurity coming off him. He got challenged by someone competent, someone who came with receipts, and he couldn't handle it. So he had to try and make it personal, try and discredit the man himself because he couldn't touch his arguments. It's just a classic sign of weakness. Honestly, that's when you know you've won. When the other person stops talking about the issue and starts talking about you, it's a tell. But the way Governor Moore just sidesteps it and turns it right back around is brilliant. He doesn't even take the bait. He just points out how absurd it is that Trump is so completely obsessed with his political future instead of the future of the American people. And that really is the entire story in a nutshell, isn't it? One person is on television talking about lowering homicide rates, helping communities, and dealing with the economy. The other is consumed by his own ego, whining about who is and isn't presidential timber because he got his feelings hurt. It's a pathetic self-own. It shows that he's terrified of any rising leader who can effectively challenge his narrative of chaos, and that's really all you need to know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.